Do you feel like you're just floundering? Like you just don't know what is going on? Maybe whenever you go to launch something new in your business, it just flops. Here's the thing. I just learned from our guest today. It's probably because your why isn't strong enough. Now, before you roll your eyes and say, Jen, I have heard a million times, know your why makes you cry. Well, Nancy takes this to a whole new level. There is a reason her book and her podcast is called Unmute Yourself, because really going deep into this why is actually what you're looking for to grow your business, grow your audience, and to take your life to that next level. And it starts with doing the thing. So are you ready? Let's go. Welcome to the Feed Your Business with Love podcast with your host, Jen Dragonette. You are about to experience a tsunami of self-love in your life and business because you have too much magic inside to just be a ripple. It's time to let go of society's standards and own who you really are. Your unique story is what makes you magical. Own it. If you want to build that business that you dream of that provides you with the fun and freedom you desire, it must start from within. Self-love is the key to success. It's time to unleash the magic inside by being your true self and watch your life and business unfold into something magical. All right, let's go. So welcome to the podcast, Nancy. I'm excited for this conversation because, we've just been in each other's life for not that long, but you have made massive changes in my life. So I'm excited to share you with my audience.
Back at you. You've made massive changes in mine too. So thank you.
So we were just having a little warm-up conversation before we got started. We're talking about this heart-centered piece. And you said something like, do you expect Deepak Chote to show up, not share a story, or get paid? And this starts bringing up a lot of things that I hear in this audience, which is it's hard to charge because these are my natural gifts.
Right. So let me explain and back up a second. What the quote is, the question is, do you think Deepak doesn't charge when he goes and speaks in front of a group of 10,000 people? Do you think he doesn't charge Oprah when he comes on or when he used to go on the Oprah Winfrey Show? Of course he does. You can do both. You can spread your message. You can make the change. You can be the change. You can do everything that you want to do and also charge for it. So that's something to consider. I feel the same way too. I love to do it. It feels weird charging for it. But just remember, Deepak's not doing it for free. The Dalai Lama is not showing up for free. No one else. Tony Robbins is not. He probably has the biggest gift of all, and he charges. The other thing, I'm going to keep going, is that one of the ways that I feel better about charging what I charge, because I'm not a low price coach or speaker, is that I do a certain amount of pro bono work within my business. There's a formula that I use, for lack of a better term. So 20% of my time is pro bono. And also it's pro bono for communities in need. So nothing irritates me more when a conference planner calls me and expects me to give a free keynote when they charge their meeting attendees. If you're a nonprofit, or if you are inviting women in and you're not charging them, or if you are whatever the case may be, all of these women's groups, I am happy to do it for free, not if you are making a profit. It's completely hypocritical.
Oh, I love that.
That was what you call a mic drop, everybody. Not sure if you caught that, but Jen, I actually stumped Jen. Because, for example, I was asked to speak at a conference, and it's a conference for empowering women. Great, right up my alley. And they charge their attendees. And I was like, how can you ask me to do this pro bono when you are empowering women? And by asking me to give my services away for free, you are disempowering me and making money off of my back and my hard work. Not okay. Nope.
Wow. I'm like, yes, you have some total mic drop moment, because it's not something I've thought about. It's not something I've thought about as an attendee.
And I have not thought about getting on stage yet, although I did make the declaration that I've been applying to speak on stages.
Excellent.
But I never even thought about that. It's like so many people go to these things for attendance. But I think what I want to bring back is this piece of like, these people are standing on stage and they're charging, like Deepak, like all of these people, because there has to be this energetic exchange, I feel.
I agree.
And I think we get and I know that this is note to everyone. Auntie and I do work together. Note to you guys. But in going through and playing with your podcast, the Unmute Yourself podcast, we're going to put that in there. And don't worry, it's in the show notes. But you were talking about all of these different things, like what do we tolerate? What don't we tolerate? What is this? Like, so I love how you have these specific topics, but this heart-centered piece always comes up in your message. Like your bottom line is always the same, like my message before money. But there is a time and a place that there has to be this energetic exchange. Because if not, all these heart-centered entrepreneurs, what's going to happen to them? They're going to go back to finance, right? And sit in your cubicle.
Right. And you probably want as many people to hear your message or benefit from your gifts as possible. And the only way you can do that is to grow your business. I have said that to clients before who didn't want to pay me. I'm here to spread the message, and you like my message and you want to help spread my message. And the best way you can help me spread my message is to pay me. The end. And by the way, I'm happy to help anybody with that. If somebody has a one-off where they're being asked whatever for free and they're not comfortable with it, I am sure I've been there, and I'm sure I have a couple of sound bites that I can throw your way to help you kind of work through it. So I'm happy to do that.
So saying that, I guess we should have started with, because my audience doesn't know you, is that you are a speaker. You are a best-selling author. You are a coach. You are a person who leads these amazing retreats. To unmute yourself, figure out your why, and just do the damn thing. And I think that the audience needs to hear that, because they're like, well, who's this person telling me this? You are paid to go on international stages.
Correct.
To share your why, your story, your message, and leave this impact. Like, you're a tsunami generator.
I love that so much. I love that. Yeah. Many years ago, I worked in corporate America, and I had a very, very successful career, big sales job, led a multi-billion-dollar global sales organization. And I left that all to take this message of empowerment on the road. And that is for women to unmute themselves, speak up, stand out, get their seat at the table, and then build a bigger table and bring others along. So I feel very passionate. I'm very passionate about what I do. I love it. It's what I live, eat, and breathe. And it took a while. That's the other thing I would say. It took a while. It was probably a solid 5 years before I really, really hit my stride. And that's not surprising. Everything you read says that people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 5 years. And that's 100% true. That's what I do. And the more I can do it, the better. The other thing about the giving away or not charging what you're worth, I also have a ton of free content, and a podcast is a great example. Everything I talk about on stage is covered in my podcast, everything. So that's another reason why I don't feel bad, because particularly if it's one-on-one coaching, because there's a ton of free content out there. And when you're ready to take it to the next level, you need to level up. That's it.
Yeah. I think there's also that fear, because I know that's was one of my things, was that fear of taking it to the next level for whatever reason. And it's never really the finances. It's always something else that's inside, is what I have come to realize from me and my clients. And I know that your story, as you've moved through like all of these things, like you just said, it took 5 years, but now you're doing the thing, which is like, I love that your messages do the thing. And it's so funny because I find myself being like, hearing your voice, do the thing, do the thing, do the thing. So I want to know, how did do the thing, or do it, I guess is your method, is do it. Yeah. How did you come up with do it? What's your why behind that? Like, why is this this do it method so important to get out into the world?
So the why behind do the thing, and I think it's important to differentiate. So there's a why behind why I left my corporate job and wrote the book, which is slightly different than the why behind do the thing. So I'm going to start with the why behind do the thing. So there are thousands and thousands and thousands of women out there who are going through life and they are phoning it in, for lack of a better term, going through the motions. So let's take me, for example. Great job on paper. I was VP of global sales. I just said I was making a lot of money. I was traveling the world. I went all over the world, all kinds of places, Middle East, Asia, Europe, everywhere. And it was a great job, but there was something missing. There was something missing. And had I known the power of when you step into who you are meant to be, and you step into the life that you know is waiting for you on the other side of your fear and the other side of your limiting beliefs. Listen, we all have baggage. We all have baggage. I can tell you to this day where I was when someone very close to me said something very hurtful, and it stuck with me. I mean, I was probably 14 years old, and it still is in my head. So we all have this baggage, all of us. It's when you let it hold you back that is the tragedy and is the shame. And frankly, and I mean this because I've seen it, that's on you, because we all have it. So the impetus for do the thing is we all have it. Anyway, so I was in this job. It was a great job. I was having fun, but I knew there was something missing, and I knew that I had to do the thing. So the first thing I had to do was determine what the thing was, like decide on the thing. What is it that you're meant to do? So let's take Jen, your book. Okay. Let's say your book is the thing. So I'm sure at some point in your journey, you said, I want to write a book.
Oh yeah.
Right. Okay. What kind of book? For who? What do you want the message to be? Who's going to benefit from your book? Why do you want to write this book? What's driving you to write this book? Why do you think you can write a book? Of course you can, but like, why is this inside of you? And what strengths do you have that will lend itself to success in the area? So what is your ultimate vision for this book, right? A lot of people say, I want to write a book. Great. And so what? Like, what kind of book? So that's D, that's decide. Okay. And then you have to own your why. And this is really, really, really powerful. And I hesitate to call it own your why because I know Simon Sinek has something similar. He actually was talking about your why way before me. But so this is your true north. Your why is your true north, your true why. Not, because I want to, like, okay, let's take my why for why I wrote my book. I could sit here and say, well, Jen, I want to empower women to speak up. Okay. Well, why, Nancy? Why is that so important to you? Because I think it's important that women speak up. Okay. Well, why is that important? Because I've known people who've spoken up and it's just sad. Right? Is that very powerful?
No.
By the way, we didn't rehearse this. This is truly like, right. So how about I left my corporate job to take my message of empowering women to speak up on the road, because somebody very, very close to me had a horrific, tragic thing happen to them when they were young. And that person helped me speak up and taught me how to speak up while she never, ever once spoke up for herself. And it impacted her entire life, and it breaks my heart. And this is the first time I've been able to get through the story without crying. And this person is my sister. And this person is someone who I can't make it through without crying. She taught me how to speak up, and she never spoke up for herself. And it was at a great, tragic detriment to her life. That's why I do what I do. I mean, do you feel a little bit more connected to me?
100%. I'm like, that's
Right.
a life raft right there.
I mean, that's exactly right. So you got to figure out your why, because your why is your true north. Your why is what will take you through when You feel like this is never going to work. I'm a failure. If you're broke, if you're borrowing money, if when you lose your motivation, which you will, and you will often, this is what will take you through that. That's your why is your true north. I'm going to pause for a minute. And you want to ask me anything about that?
There's just so much. There's so much emotion behind that. There's like, I feel the emotion deep in my body. And I don't know if there's really a question. It's just to reiterate, like, it has to be that powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you hear your why makes you cry, I roll my eyes. I'm like, whatever. But that's it right there. Is that if the why connects so deeply in your soul, you will show up on those days that it sucks.
Yes. And so that reminds me, I have a tool, of course. I have a method for how you can find your why. And it's something that I do with my one-on-one coaching clients. And it's something that I did with multimillionaire entrepreneur Tiffany Carter, who I'm sure many of you have heard of. And we did it on her podcast. And it was powerful. I mean, we were shook. And none of this was planned. And it's really simple. You just continue to ask yourself why 5 times. So what's your why for doing this? Then you have your answer. Then you say, okay, now why is that important to you? Then you have your answer. Why is that important to you? And you do it 5 times. It's difficult to do it with yourself because it will bring things up. It will bring up things that you didn't know existed. And it might be painful and you might just stop doing it. I know somebody who did stop doing it and had to pause our work together because it was that deep. And you also might bullshit yourself a little bit if you're doing it with yourself. So, we'll put a link in the show notes to this exercise. And it's something that I'm going to be doing on my retreat, which is coming up in the fall, where this is like this is the mother load is what I call it. This is it. And if you don't know what your true north is, I will bet you're not finding joy in your work. And I will bet you're probably not going to be as successful as you could be. You might get by and you might do okay. But the minute you really double down on that, everything will explode wide open. I promise. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. And just the way that you're saying that, I know that I need to go deeper with my why because I have there's so much of my why. And it's like, I don't want to be a ripple. I don't work with ripple makers. I work with the people that are like, screw the ripple. I want my tsunami.
That's right. And you do. Yeah.
But why? Like I'm going through that exercise.
We should do it. We should do it on a podcast. You want to do it right now?
We could do it right now. All right.
Really?
Okay. Let's do it. Let's
get
extra vulnerable. This is why you need to come into Nancy's space because you get put on the spot and she will make you do the thing.
That's right. So what are we talking about? Are we talking about why you wrote the book?
Sure. Let's go with the book.
Okay. You sure?
Let's start with the book. Let's do the book. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to warn you right now. If you give me a bullshit answer, I'm going to be able to see through it.
I like it.
Okay. So, Jen, tell me why you wanted to write this book.
I wanted to write the book because it needed to come out of me because as I was sitting on the floor in Costa Rica and we had this exercise that was called Who Am I? Mm-hmm. I had my pretty unicorn book and everything and everyone had these beautiful things to say about themselves and I could only write down the words, who am I? And I realized in that moment that I had lost myself in everyone else's stories and the stories I was telling myself.
Okay. Why do you think you told me that it needs to come out of you because you had lost yourself in everyone else's stories. Why is it important for you? First of all, why do you think you lost yourself in other people's stories?
I was a severe people pleaser and worried about losing everything and being alone and dying alone because I had just witnessed it with somebody who had pushed everyone out of their life and died and was actually in their apartment for 30 days, melting into their couch when we found them. Because
okay. All right. So you're a recovering people pleaser. So tie the people pleasing back to the book. So how does the people pleasing go back to this need for the book to come out of you? What about writing the book is not people pleasing? Like,
It was 100% unfiltered. Like, I allowed it to just come out and be what it was without reservation.
why is it so important, do you think, that you tell your story unfiltered?
Because a filtered version of myself left me feeling empty on that floor in Costa Rica because I've been living a filtered life.
Why do you think you were living a filtered life?
Because I had the desire to try to fit in. It goes back to the people pleasing. I was so afraid of being abandoned that it didn't matter if I lost myself as long as people liked me.
Okay, so you might repeat yourself here, but why are you so afraid of being abandoned?
Because a lot of the people in my life as a child left me for something else, and I was never the important one.
Okay, I'm just taking notes.
You're getting the unfiltered version right now.
Why do you think, okay, so why do you think it's important that you change the script and feel like the important one?
Because I deserve to be the important one. I deserve to have my desires and needs met too. I'm not here on this planet to just be everyone else's, I don't know, maid, slave, beck and call.
Okay. What happens when you don't feel like the important one?
I get really down on myself and hide in my little shell and stop putting my message out and start depleting energy in unhealthy habits.
Well, why? Like, what's the big deal about being inside of your shell? I go into my shell sometimes.
It's very destructive. And then I start praying to not wake up in the morning and get suicidal ideations.
Okay. So this is the why, right?
You're learning a lot about me right now.
No, this is part of it. So let's go back. Okay. So you think it's important. This book needed to come out of you, because I'm going to tell you right now, this book is not about you. I know this. Stay with me. You feel that it's important, and this all needs to come out of you so that people understand that even if you don't feel like you're the important one, you deserve to be the important one. You deserve to feel like the important one, because you know what happens when people don't feel that way. And what happens is they self-destruct and they get close to ending their life.
Yes.
So you wrote this book so that no one who reads this book will ever feel like that.
Or at least won't feel alone or like they're by themselves. They might still feel that way, but so that there's as a beacon of hope.
As a beacon of hope, because you know what it's like to feel hopeless, and you came very close to not waking up, and you want to try to save that from someone else.
Yes.
Right. So that's a pretty powerful why.
Yes. That's why it's called a life raft.
You're a little unfazed, frankly. I was thinking you'd be a little more like, so I feel like have you done this already?
No, I'm holding it together. This is my shell. This is welcome to Jen's life of plaster on the smile.
Okay. So tell me, when you are in the destructive place, how does that feel?
It's weird because half the time it feels terrible. Like you can't breathe. And the other half is so comfort zone because it's been my life. So there's the piece that's like, how do I explain it? So there's this piece that you're like, oh my God, I can't go on. I'm like, my body's shutting down and I'm always sick. And then there's this piece that's like, hey, we got this. Like, we've been here for so long. This is just like this is where we hang out. Like getting good is just going to lead us back to worse. So like we've already hit the bottom. So why not just
might as well stay here? Might as well stay here, right? Yeah. So it's interesting because your story is someone's life raft. You hope will be someone's life raft.
And it was my life raft.
Whose story was your life raft?
My own.
Okay. Wow.
So as I've been editing and reading this, and I had an AI person read it back to me, I got what I needed out of my book as much as I hope someone else will get out of what they needed.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredibly powerful. That's incredibly powerful. You don't want anybody to be stuck as long as you were or stuck like you were. And if you can help them to get out faster or period, if you can be that life raft, that's your purpose. That's your purpose.
Yep.
That's pretty powerful.
And when you unleash those tsunamis, people are going to need some life rafts.
That's true.
It's a pretty big wave.
It's interesting because, you said with such conviction, I deserve to be the important one. You were like, no questions asked. I deserve to be the important one. Do you really believe that?
It's definitely still a work in progress. I believe it more than I don't believe it now.
Yeah.
But there are still that last version. I mean, this is also 8 years of multiple therapists and healing retreats and everything else. But in the last 3 years since sitting on that floor in Costa Rica, I'm like, you all need to go do the why exercise or hang out with Nancy.
I mean, it's pretty powerful. And then so I mean, it's very powerful. That's your true north. And when you wrap that up in a digestible bite-sized like content or copy or whatever message, then the people who need this life raft will find it. So now you can write on the cover or in your bio or whatever, I was sitting on the floor in Costa Rica and realized that I'd completely lost myself. I had been, I'd had suicidal ideations and I knew that I didn't want this to happen to anybody else. It's pretty powerful.
You must have just read the first chapter of my book because
I didn't.
That's pretty much how it opened. I think
I didn't.
I know you didn't, but I'm just saying like that. I open that's inside the book, and just like your story with your sister and your Unmute Yourself book. I do think that these are when you write them from this heart-centered place, from this, like you said, your true north. That's when your story really does become impactful to others.
Absolutely.
You never know who you impact.
By the way, I didn't know my why. I hired my first branding coach during COVID, and she asked me a question. I have it written down in my file somewhere. I can't remember what it was. And it was wild. She said, who have you always been this outspoken? And I was like, no. She said, who stuck up for you as a kid? And I said, my sister. My sister used to stick up for me. And then I thought about it and I'm like, not once did she stick up for herself. Not once. Not once. And it breaks my heart. So, yeah. That was a lot in the first. We did a lot out of the gate. Oh, you want me to continue with the DOIT process?
Yeah. But
Okay.
I mean, we don't have to because this is so deep, but like audience, just take like a breath. Like it's a lot to take in. And I know that everybody's thinking like, all right, my why, I do need to go deeper. Your why does need to make you.
Oh, so let me go back. Yeah. So while we take a breath here. So my why not for the book, but for doing the retreat and the do the thing is, had I known that this life was, I did say this, was available to me, I would have done it years ago. People don't think that they deserve to have everything they want or they can. They don't think they can. If you had told me, all right, I'm going to tell you what happened. Okay. You ready for this? This is a good one.
Ready.
About a week ago, I was cleaning up my office, which is a shitstorm. And I was listening to the Go-Go's. We Get the Beat. Remember the song We Get the Beat? Okay. And I really might cry again. And it brought me back to high school. I don't know if you did this, but when I was in high school, we used to listen to the Go-Go's and all the girls would stand around in a circle and would do the pony hop. You know the pony hop? It's where you hop from side to side. And that's how we would dance. It was very odd. But anyway, we would all do this pony hop. And I was thinking of this this girl in high school who was bullied, was overweight, was a tomboy, like no fashion sense. I wore a raincoat to school for like a year because I was embarrassed about my body. And I didn't even know that. Like, this is stuff I don't even remember. And really bullied badly. And if you had told this girl, I thought about this little girl in high school. Never in a million years would I have thought that I could have a 4-bedroom farmhouse on Cape Cod, a 3-bedroom condo in Boston, a 1-bedroom condo in Naples, flying around the world, all this material stuff, none of which matters, by the way, none of it. A fantastic husband who is just the best thing ever. And the life where I get, if I want to go down and watch the sunrise tomorrow morning, I'm going to go watch the sunrise. If I want to hop on a plane and go to, wherever and do whatever, I can hop on a plane and go wherever. If I don't feel like working tomorrow, I don't have to work tomorrow. If anybody had ever told me that, I would have never, ever, ever believed it. I never thought it was possible. I thought I was going to end up my whole life broke, ugly, alone, and, dying alone and nobody finding me for days. And I think about that little person who never, never had hope. And it breaks my heart. So thus, I want women to understand you can do the thing. You can do it. And it doesn't matter what your husband says. It doesn't matter what your friends say. It doesn't matter what your boss says. If you are passionate about it, and if it is it's got to be realistic, you can do it. And I can show you how. Guaranteed. I do it all the time with my coaching clients. Anyway, that's that.
I'm just like, yes, if you're listening, there's tears. It's fine.
It is a little deep. So
I love it.
This does bring me to the I. You can do it, but you have to invest. And when I say invest, your time, your energy, your oxygen, your brain power, like it's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. If it was easy, Jen would have been a best-selling author 5 years ago, flying around, speaking on stages, on Good Morning America, or whatever that dream is, which will happen if she really wants it, but she would have done it a long time ago. You have to invest and you have to double down on yourself, and that's, again, the time, the money, the commitment. It's not easy, and it's not for tire kickers. It's just not. And then the last is the T is, so it's DOIT, the tactical plan. You need a plan. So, I know a few people who have left their corporate jobs because they had this fire and they had this passion and they didn't have a plan. And okay, that was you? You didn't have a plan?
0.
How'd that work out?
Terrible.
Right. Yeah.
It was terrible.
You got to have a plan. Now, that doesn't mean I don't have a plan so I can't do it. It means, 5 years before I left my company that I had been with for 25 years, I hired a coach and we started talking about what does chapter 2 look like? What does it look like? I had no idea. So how can you get where you're going if you don't know where you're going? How can you figure out how to get there if you don't know where you're going? So you got to figure out what you want. And, that's part of the tactical plan is what is it? Okay, great. Now that we know, let's go out and get it.
Yeah. And that, I think, at least for me, I'm like, okay, I feel so called out, but that's okay. I like being called out. That was one of my big things is like, my why is there. I know my why. I pretend to not know my things, but that tactical plan, like what was it that I really wanted? I kept telling people I wanted all these things, again, to people please and fit in, because me saying I want a shit ton of money because I want to be, able to do all these things, spoil my friends and family, and give back to some places, because there's some places I'd love to donate to, made me feel like a horrible person. So everybody, I'm like, I want to make all the money so I can have a horse rescue with a mental health facility on it. Like, that's not what I want. But it felt noble if I wanted as much money as in my head to say that. So that tactical plan would have been really helpful.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Go. Sorry.
No, I don't want the horse rescue.
You don't?
I want to donate to the horse rescue. I don't want it myself. I want to be able to fund it, but I sure as hell don't want to run it. I don't want to like I would love to be able to help us fund it.
Yeah.
It's still part of my vision, but my vision, my outward vision, my noble outward vision was that I wanted it myself. I wanted to be fully self-sufficient. I wanted to create all this money to just pour into this one thing. Because wanting the bush plane to fly around to Alaska and go fishing in these little tiny lakes seemed like a bad person.
But you can do both.
Yep.
Right?
And also, I think it's what you said earlier. And also, I can.
Yeah. I can fly a bush plane to Alaska and go salmon fishing and also fund a mental health facility / horse farm to, for at-risk teens. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah. So that's interesting because yeah. So that's also part of a vision exercise, but that's a whole nother conversation. Anyway, so I feel like we went down a little rabbit hole. Did I?
We did, but that's okay. You did answer the question because you went through the do it. You told us, we went through the how for you, and we went through the exercise, which was great. Thank you so much. Listeners got a little bit more. You got to know me a little bit deeper.
Indeed.
Sorry, not sorry. But bringing this all together and this nothing's a neat little bow. Let's not even pretend like that's how it is. Right. But how does this, we just shared with you these impactful stories. You speak on stages with your impactful stories. How do you know which story to share and which stories to keep?
Oh, that's a great question. I share stories that I know. Well, okay. I share stories that I know have resonated in the past. So when I tell the story about, and I get specific and I can't tell it anymore because, I could if I wanted to. I told the story about me being bullied by someone and that person heard about it and ripped my face off. And out of lack of wanting to deal with it, I just don't tell the story anymore. It's fine. So, but that story resonated with a lot of people. So when I talk about everyone has baggage, right? So if I'm during International Women's Day this year, I did several virtual keynotes. And I remember asking one of the groups, throw a message in the chat for me if somebody told you something when you were younger and you feel like it's holding you back now. And the chat blew up. I have never seen anything like this. I was told I was too much when I was 12 years old. I was told I was too confident. I was told I would never be anything. I was told that I needed to sit back and let my brother do this. And it was item after item after item. So I tell the stories that resonate because the stories that resonate help people feel less alone and help people feel connected to the message. And that's what I want. That's what I want. I want them to feel connected to the message. So I tell stories that I know someone's going to say, wow, if that happened to her and she, overcame that and was able to do what she does, then I know I can. Same thing with you, right? So those are the stories that I tell. There are, and then based on a question, if I'm asked a question in the audience, so what happens is when you speak enough, you have these stories at the ready and or when you even podcast enough, that you're so used to telling them, they're at the top of your brain. So if someone asks a question, I'll say, yes, this has happened to me. Let me tell you a story. And I'll tie it into that story to help them to either answer the question because people remember stories, right? That's what they remember. That's a very common persuasion principle. And I tell the stories that I know will help drive the message home, which is ultimately what I'm here to do.
Yes. I love that. And I love that, just like you said with podcasting, because I've never done this thing on a stage, but there are a lot of different stories that I have that connect because story is what connects instead of facts. And I feel that this is one of the things that's finally coming to the light a little bit more is the power of story. Or maybe it's just because I'm in that general region now, I'm seeing it more, but I'm seeing more and more people try to connect and grow their businesses and do things through a powerful story, something that you can see somebody in.
Absolutely. I think it's since COVID, it might have been before that, but human connection has never been more important. We all checked out for 2 years, right? And think about how difficult that was. Think about how difficult that was for a lot of people. And now that we're back, I feel like we're back 10 times the magnitude of what it used to be. There used to be a little hamster wheel. Like now it's like a giant, remember that ball that you would get in, the bouncy ball that you would get in and bounce around? Like there's this giant bouncy ball and it's coming for you. And, you got to step out and you have to step off. And the way to step out of the race really is to find some kind of human connection. And that's what powers everything. Human connection's never been more important.
Yeah. Which is why you are doing a retreat in Cape Cod so that people can do the things while connecting with other humans.
Exactly. Like I could have done it as a, group workshop, but there's something really powerful about this is going to be 8 like-minded women, hand selected, for lack of a better term. That sounded arrogant, hand curated so that you can connect with these other women who share the desire to do the thing. And we're going to inspire each other. We're going to motivate each other. We're going to connect with each other. And I hope that there will be friendships that last a lifetime, but you'll be able to connect with me one-on-one. It's much, much more powerful in person. It is. I mean, listen, I'm a career podcaster and virtual keynote speaker. There's nothing more powerful than in person. There's not.
I 100% agree, because that, like you talked about with COVID, that time where everyone was going inside and didn't have human connection, it didn't change one thing in my life, because that's how disconnected I was.
Wow.
Until I started my podcast, met somebody from my podcast, and ended up on a floor in Costa Rica.
With Who Am I?
That's how it all started.
That's wild.
Because I didn't connect with humans. So I love that. And I love, of course, I'm going to put all the information in the show notes. I feel like, I haven't had a conversation turned around on me in a long time. I'm like,
I know.
Wait,
we did flip it. Yeah, I know. But, it's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Powerful. So if someone were going to walk away from this conversation with that one nugget, so that might last a minute, a moment, a day, or a lifetime, what would you want that one nugget to be?
That we all have a story that we're afraid to tell. And being vulnerable and telling your story will make everyone better. Most of all, you. That's it. Should I actually drop the mic? Should I take a mic and drop it?